Now, top US government cybersecurity officials fear advanced hackers are going to have a field day with the Log4J vulnerability that's likely to present in hundreds of millions of devices around the world. What is this all about? Is it kind of like the coding version of Omicron? Well, to take us through that, Robert Healy from Peakhour joins us. Robert, as if we haven't got enough to worry about when it comes to wearing masks, we kind of need to mask up on our devices as well. Tell us a little bit about Log4j and should we be worried?
Yeah, g'day. Can you hear me there all right?
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me on the show. Fantastic. So look, Log4j is a critical remote code execution vulnerability. It's been given a number. It's called a CVE, Common Vulnerability Enumeration, 2021 44228. And it's in the Log4j Java library that affects many, many Java applications. And the problem is that that stuff is everywhere, right? So if you think the Apache web servers and many, many common enterprise products from major vendors like VMware, it's on the Twitter application, it's in the Apple iCloud, it's used in Elasticsearch, and these things are in every company around the world. Right. So the problem is that essentially any device that's connected to the internet that is running that code library on it can be found, it can be exploited, and it can be compromised. Right now, even if those devices don't necessarily have, your customer database, your billing information, your personally identifiable data, or corporate mission critical information, those hosts can be used as a launch pad. Right, so someone can get in, they can take control, they can create an admin account, escalate privileges, and then do scanning and reconnaissance throughout the rest of your IT infrastructure to go and find whatever you've got that they want. Right, so it's been launched, it's been announced, the cybersecurity infrastructure is working as designed. Right, people are being told about this. Now, the big problem that we see that usually is the root cause of major data breach incidents is that there's usually a huge gap, right, between when the vulnerability is announced and when the patch is made available, and when companies get around to patching their production services, which is what you need to do to eliminate the risk. Now,
So I was going to say, I think we became aware of it at the start of this month, and it really came to the fore on around about December 9. And now the warnings have ramped up. We're lucky that the patch is already here. But the reason I want to talk to you about it today is, of course, everyone's basically thinking about Christmas parties, and I'm not sure how many people are tuned onto this, but it is a major threat for businesses across the board.
Oh, 100%. This has been described as the worst vulnerability in the last 10 years. With a CVE score of 10 out of 10 for severity, it enables remote code execution. So the problem is it's very simple to find these devices, and they're everywhere, that are vulnerable. It's very easy to exploit. This does not require a PhD in computer science to be able to write an exploit that will target and activate this vulnerability. We're seeing entities from all over the world targeting Australian businesses right now. So Peakhour, we provide content delivery networking and cloud-based cybersecurity services, and it's just as well we are, right? Because we're blocking attacks on Australian federal government organizations, on entities in the legal sector, e-commerce businesses. Everyone has this, right? And so the good news is, right, that it's actually pretty straightforward to enable immediate protection, right? The problem and one of the big things that causes these data breach incidents is the fact that it's hard to patch production infrastructure. Right, that's why the IT departments typically take somewhere between 1 to 6 months to roll out these new security patches, because every time you do it, it's going to disrupt production services. It usually involves downtime. You might solve one problem but introduce 10 more when you upgrade your operating system or your web infrastructure, etc., etc. So the good news is that what's called a web application firewall can do what's called virtual patching, right? So if you use a cloud service like Peakhour, where you have a web application firewall that can protect you in the cloud, right? So IT administrators don't need to touch their own infrastructure. They can rely upon the protections of a virtual patch being applied within a web application firewall. So that gives them the time that they need for their regression testing before they roll out the patches into their production environment. Right, so it's a really serious problem, but there is a very easy solution, and we're telling all of our customers, like, hey, good news, we're already protecting you against it. But there are lots of people who aren't yet Peakhour customers, and they're at risk.
So on that front, going back to the fact that you've seen these attacks, are you seeing a great escalation? Yes. Because I am conscious of the fact that there has been quite a rush of hackers getting into this space. And you mentioned earlier, yes, if you're on the cloud, there is the virtual patch. What's your advice to business owners on their next step? Do they get on to someone in the IT department and say, hey, what's our strategy? If they don't have an IT department, who do they get in touch with for help?
Yeah, look, 100%. And I've been really impressed with the responses that we've seen. There's, I think the Australian IT community on the whole is doing a very good job of focusing and paying the right amount of attention to these kind of issues. I've been very impressed with proactive messages I've seen from the CTOs of various companies, people like the healthcare sector, who have a lot of sensitive data that they need to protect on behalf of their clients. We've seen proactive announcements coming out from them to their customers, to their clients and partners, saying, look, we're aware of this incident. We think we're safe against it, but we are checking into it very carefully, and we are proactively letting you know that we're aware of it and we're looking into it, and we're doing everything that we possibly can to keep you safe.
All right.
But every organization should be doing that.
All right, Robert Healy, really appreciate your time and advice from Peakhour. I can imagine you're quite busy dealing with this at the moment, so thanks for your time.
Yeah. And everyone is exploiting this right now. Bitcoin miners and all sorts of things are being installed in vulnerable systems.
Oh, wow.
It's a risk.
All right. Thanks for your time, Robert.
Thanks for having us. All right. Bye.
Now let's meet another.